that I was going to grow up and be like her and I would amount to nothing.
Sorry, that's just how I am. I will never be like her, because all she ever said was, you're just like me. That didn't happen to you. That never happened to you.
I was worth nothing because I couldn't make my life better.
Other people always telling me, girl, you need to eat.
My body hasn't done the things that I wanted it to do, so I feel really broken.
I blamed myself. Food was my friend and my enemy all at the same time. It took 6 months for me to lose everything.
We're all gonna get on dirt bikes and ride in our bras and pants.
Yeah. Get half naked. Come on, here. We're gonna sit. We're gonna introduce ourselves. So we're gonna go around. Please introduce yourself, and you are going to give us your rundown of, tell us your story. Tell us why you're here.
At 25, I got married, and I couldn't get pregnant, so I started fertility treatments, and I did that for years. At 27 or I think 28, I did an IUI fertility treatment, and I became pregnant with twins, and so of course I was super excited. My husband was super excited at the time. And at 11 weeks, I had a miscarriage, so I had to have a D&C. I can remember driving home from that D&C just being like, if I can't be a mother, in life, I don't know what I would be. And then at 29, I became addicted to prescription painkillers. When I started using OxyContin, in 4 months, I went from around 200 pounds, maybe even 220 to 127. So at that time I became super confident. I just thought I was so awesome. But I also lost my job as a manager at Wells Fargo. I lost everything. And then the next 3 or 4 years was in and out of jails, institutions, treatment centers.
Was when I was a little girl. I was sexually abused by a friend of the family. At the time, I thought it was the way you showed love. And I remember being in 4th or 5th grade in a health class. The teacher was going over sexual abuse. And the whole time they were talking, I was like, that's happened to me, that's happened to me, that's happened to me. And then I thought, well, it's someone who loves me, so it's different. And then the teacher said, even if it's your dad, uncle, or someone who is close to the family, it's still sexual abuse. And I just remember feeling of dirtiness and unclean, and kind of just hated myself automatically. I felt guilty. I felt ashamed. I remember laying in bed and just remembering that didn't happen to you. That never happened to you. And just so that those feelings would go away. And I knew from early on that I wanted to cover my body. I wanted to hide.
I was born into two very young people. My parents were 15 and 16, and so they didn't know anything about raising a child. They were still children themselves. And my father ended up being very angry about the situation because they were forced to marry. And as a result, he was very abusive. With that, when I was about 5 years old, I was abused sexually by an uncle. Being in the family that we were, being of Hispanic culture, when I finally came out with it to my family, it was just not spoken of. It was something that was just, out of sight, out of mind. That's when my body image problems started. I felt dirty. I felt really unclean. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I should have, every day I should have stood up. I should have done this. I would rehearse in my room as a little kid in front of the mirror, today you're going to say this. Today you're going to do this. Today you're going to stand up to him. Today you're going to stand up to your dad. You can do this. And as soon as I saw them, I would fall apart. So I just felt like I was worth nothing because I couldn't make my life better. And I really didn't have any control because the people that were around me and loved me were supposed to take care of me just weren't doing what they needed to do.
My mom abandoned me the day that she was born, the day that I was born. She was addicted to drugs, so she just kept her pregnancy a secret. And I lived with her, and then I lived with my aunt, and then back and forth until my dad found out that I was his. So he married my mom's sister's daughter, and just I think there was like a lot of hurt and jealousy there, and just so they would be really mean to me and like tell me that I was going to be just like my mom, specifically about her body. She was a very big woman. She like treated herself like trash, like and that's what they would say all the time, that I was going to be just like her, that I would be worthless, that I was going to be on the streets just like her. They would tell me that when I was a very small child. I've always struggled with my body, even like when I was small. I remember thinking, God, I was a chubby kid, but
I had a very mentally ill mother. There were 4 of us growing up in that household. And the mental warfare she chose to put on her 4 children was debilitating. She targeted me as her prodigy. I was loyal to her because I was treated well. I was blonde hair and blue-eyed like she was. So I was hers. I started to come aware of her issues when I was 15. And then I decided I will never be like her. Because all she ever said was, you're just like me. I will never be like her. She was skinny as a young adult. She got bigger. I obsessed with never getting bigger.
I think my body issues started from a young age. My mom was never happy with her body. She's always been overweight, and like it has impacted every aspect of her life. But on the flip side, it inspired me to be in shape from an early age. And so I started going to the gym in high school and played sports and kept working out through college. And then I've got muscular legs. And I've always been told I have big legs, and I was just like, I'm sorry, that's just how I am. But I was running a lot in college, and I would run like 5 miles a day and have like a bowl of cereal.
I think that my body insecurities began when I was in junior high. I started seeing all my girlfriends around me develop, and I wasn't. I was just getting taller than all the boys, just getting skinnier. I just felt like so scrawny, and I just felt like I looked like a boy. Other people probably had no clue, always telling me, oh, you're a bag of bones, or girl, you need to eat. You look like a beanpole, which is very insensitive. I know people probably don't think that it is, telling a skinny person that, but it really does hurt because I cannot gain weight, and I've tried to gain weight, and it just does not happen for me. If I ever had voiced that I was skinny or I just didn't like the way I feel, people would tell me, well, you should just be so happy that you're skinny. So I just kind of shut my mouth and just buried it deep inside.
I am very critical of myself. I criticize myself, and with my son, I got pregnant really early on in our marriage. And then my son, when he was about 2, started having developmental issues, and he was behind. And at 5, he was diagnosed with autism. And I blamed myself really bad for that because I thought that it was my fault and it was something wrong with me, and it was very hard. And I turned to food for comfort.
I grew up in a broken home. Whenever I was probably like 7, 8 years old, we moved away to a different state. And my thing that kept me coping whenever I was either at school or home by myself was food. So I was a very large child growing up. Kids are mean. I remember just being bullied almost every day. I hated going to school. It was the worst, and it caused me to just beg and beg and beg to move back to Texas, where I moved back. Things were going great, but I was still dealing with body issues, eating disorder issues at such a young age. I feel like eating disorder issues obviously developed, from binging to 1 year nothing to 1 year purging, and it kind of just was this cycle that I just dealt with. It was just, food was my friend and my enemy all at the same time, just because that's just how I would deal. And
I've had long issues with my health. The past 2 years I've had several surgeries and just different things that have kept me from being present in my kiddo's life. And I ended up having to have a gastric bypass, and I lost 200 pounds, and then I gained like 60 back. And so I go from feeling okay some days to some days being miserable, and my body is not doing the things and hasn't done the things that I wanted it to do, so I feel really broken. But the great thing about our little family is that I was not able to have kiddos, so all 5 of our babes are adopted. God had other plans for me, and so that's how I ended up being a mama of 6, which I never thought was going to be possible, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
I met Brian, who's my boyfriend, and he just saw me as me, and it was never, I never felt uncomfortable in front of him. I never felt like I had to hide myself, and it was really awesome. And I was very thankful, because it was really hard for me to have relationships because I never knew what that would look like, trusting a man. And then that moved into us starting a family. And for 3 years, we tried to have a baby, and then all those insecurities crept back up because my body wasn't doing what I thought it should be doing. And I just started hating myself again because I was like, why? All I want to do is be a mommy. And so that was a really hard three years. And so I was like, you know what? It's just not meant to be. Like, this isn't in God's plan right now. Maybe I'm not meant to be a mom, but I can be a great stepmom to my girls. And so we just left it at that. And then in September of 2020, I found out I was pregnant, and it was like the craziest thing ever. I think that I didn't believe it. I took 3 pregnancy tests because I was just like, this isn't true. This can't be happening. And so I started to just have this confidence over my body. And I just remember praying. I'm like, this is what I've always wanted. God answers prayers.
One of the last jails that I was in, I was sitting in the jail and I found out that I was pregnant. And so that was my 5-year-old Lincoln. And of course I was super happy, and I just couldn't believe it. I was able to stay sober for a while after I had Lincoln, but I didn't really deal with any of the trauma that I had, so I continued to be in and out of jails and treatments. And at one point, when Lincoln was 4 months old, CPS actually removed him, and I did everything I had to do to get him back. And when he turned a year old, I was ordered, full custody back. And then 3 days later, I had my second son. And so, and then I moved out on my own. And like I said, now I've had 2 years and 3 months of sobriety. I have full custody of both of my kids. I haven't been arrested or had to go to treatment, or I'm also a full-time student for San Antonio College studying to be a licensed chemical dependency counselor. This is my 2nd semester there. I was just awarded a scholarship from the Women's Chamber here in Kerrville. So
transitioning into motherhood, now I've kind of felt as though, I have a new appreciation for my body. I was able to carry, 2 children full term and give birth. And I mean, that was amazing for me to do that. And so I kind of started appreciating my body a little bit more.
I struggled a lot. I married my now husband. He encouraged me to go seek help for my depression. And my doctor said, let's put you on medication. And that broke me more than I could have possibly imagined, because she was on medication. That means I'm just like her. So I struggled, and my husband said, I love you no matter what. I want you to love you no matter what. So I've been on medication, and by accident, we got pregnant in February of 2020, and we have an amazing little boy. I am at my largest, and I'm accepting who I am. I have cut her off. I am better, but I'm doing this for me and for my daughter.
Now I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I look at her and she's so perfect. She's so perfect in every way, everything about her. Her little body, she's so strong and fit, and her little face and her big eyes. I'm just Now looking back at pictures, I'm like, what the hell? I wasn't even a chubby kid. But I just remember for so long just thinking that's what I was. I was just like worthless and I was like fat, and I got very large while I was pregnant and just really, really disliking myself until I just learned to just take care of myself better and look at myself like an important person, the way that I look at everybody else, you know. It's how I got to my journey to loving my body a lot more, because I stand here more comfortably now than I ever have in my entire life, even when I was smaller or more fit, like, you know.
Like I said, 2021 was going to be the year, and that's why I chose this project, because I wanted to share my story, and I wanted to realize that you know, you have to just work on it each and every day. It's not something that you just wake up and you change your mind and it's all just, you know, rainbows and sunshine. It takes time and effort, and that's pretty much how I feel. So
anyway, I don't want to pass any of this on. I just want them to know that, like, Mom is strong and Mom can handle whatever comes at them or at us, and yeah.
I guess I'm here because I just felt like somebody needed to read my story. I really wasn't sure about doing this type of project, but I don't know, something in me felt like somebody needed to read what I had been through, so I hope whoever that person is gets a chance to read that and hopefully reach out if they feel like they need to connect with someone who's going through what I've gone through in the past.
It's just cool because I just have a different outlook over my body, because I made a baby, you know, and I gave birth to that baby. That was crazy. and so it's just amazing what our bodies can do.
So I just want to be super positive for my girls, and like I said, I want my boys to appreciate women and their bodies and how unique everybody is and how different.
The biggest part, I think, is for women that are in recovery to realize that when they lose all that weight in their addiction, you know, we're not healthy. And so I have learned to accept that as long as I'm healthy, I'll never be that size again, and that's okay.
About a month or so ago, I'm just standing there, like, looking at my collarbones and my hips, and I'm just looking, and my daughter comes in there and she's like, Mom, you're so beautiful. And I'm like, I kind of just stop, and I'm like, she's already seeing me act this way to myself. I don't want her to grow up and think that's okay for her to think that about her own self. And so that's why I joined the project. Just really for her, I say that, but I mean, really for me, I'm sitting here listening to all y'all, and I'm really thinking about myself, and I'm like, something drew me here. I didn't know what until just listening to all of y'all, and so I'm appreciative for this opportunity, and I think that this year I might focus on myself. I don't think I've ever really done that.
I guess the biggest thing for me, not too long ago, I caught myself. I'll sit there and I'll be sitting there and, you know, I'm like, oh, my big belly, and I'll slap it, and, you know, I'll talk about my ass and this, and my daughter's watching everything I'm doing. And so the other day, or it was before the project, she was sitting there going, you know, I have a big booty too, Mom, and she's 5. And I was going, I need to stop. I'm not happy with myself, but I need to change that for her. I'm always going to continue to work on myself, but at the same time, he wouldn't have put me exactly where I'm at right now if it weren't his plan. My faith has always wavered, but I genuinely feel like when I saw this on Facebook that this was calling me, this was on my heart. And this is for my daughter, this is for any other little girl that feels dirty and unclean. She can see that ultimately it's okay. You're going to go through some crap, but you're going to come out okay.
Having 2 daughters now, I just want to break the cycle of, like, thinking the way that your body looks is the most important thing. That's where I am today. And so I just think that it takes courage to love yourself the way you are with all your flaws and everything. And I just want to be an example, not only to my stepdaughters, but I have nieces that I know are struggling with their bodies as well. So this is, for me, I want to be a great example to them so that they don't have to go through anything that I went through.
Everyone's story was so special, and you all have been through your own thing, and no one can take that away from you. And the fact that you're here and you want to move forward and better yourself, like, this is where you're supposed to be right now, regardless of what you've been through. You all hold a very special place in my heart now. And this will heal. This will heal you, and you will move forward. And like, I wanted to tell you that at the end of all of your stories, I was counting like the blessings you have now, where you are now, your successes, your accomplishments, and wherever you, like, I hope you all hold on to that, where you are now, the people you have in your life, the things you're doing. Hold on to that, because you're all really awesome. And we all see it now. So everyone stand up, and everyone take off your dress.